All right, let's welcome everybody out today to episode 355 of I Am Salt Lake Podcast. My name is Chris.
And my name's Christina. Many thanks to Mountain West Hard Cider for letting us use their facilities to record this episode of the podcast. You need to stop on by and grab some hard ciders on your way home from work, on your way to a friend's house, anytime. Just come support these guys for being such a rad local business. Their address is 425 North, 400 West in Salt Lake City, just north of the Gateway.
Mark this on your calendar, guys. It's November 17th. It looks like Green Urban Lunchbox and Mountain West Hard Cider, they are teaming up to make this special release of Gulb Hard Cider. I think I'm pronouncing that right, Chrissy. It's G-U-L-B. I think it's the two of them, Green Urban Lunchbox and the hard cider. They're mixing it up. This hyper-local bottle-conditioned hard cider not only tastes good, but makes you feel good. And they're not talking just about that 6.9% alcohol by volume either. Sounds like it's going to be good. I might have to try this, Chrissy.
Gulb is the sound I'm going to make when I'm drinking it.
Hey guys, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, the very first time you've downloaded us, first of all, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. Hopefully you stick around. But if this is your first time and you're like, what is this podcast all about? Well, this podcast is all about showcasing awesome people here in Salt Lake City. We sit down and talk with musicians. We sit down and talk with authors, business owners, restaurant owners, breweries, distilleries, food truck owners, really anyone that might have a cool story to share.
And sharing his story on the podcast today is David Pierce. He's actually the author of the Bewitched history book.
Never in a million years would I have thought, hey, one day I'm going to sit down and talk with the author of the Bewitched history book, and I get to do that on this episode. I'm excited.
It is really fun conversation.
Hey, before we get into that conversation, I want to take a moment and thank our amazing sponsors for this episode, Five Wives Vodka and Market Source Real Estate. We're going to be telling you more about them a little bit later on in the podcast.
And don't forget to head on over to our website at iamsaltlake.com. This is where you can find all the previous episodes of the podcast and listen to them if you haven't, or listen to the ones that you love all over again. And this is where you can actually also purchase your very own I Am Salt Lake t-shirt. Just look for the shop tab up top.
All right, guys, let's jump into that conversation that we had with David Pierce when he sat down with us, shared his story. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy. I don't know if people are getting sick of hearing me ask this as the introductory question is, what did your childhood smell like? But I think it's so fascinating.
No, I love it. I was totally hoping.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorites because I'm like, you learn so much about a person.
You know, what was funny, when I first started asking it, I was like, are people going to understand what I'm asking?
At first I didn't, but
you caught on?
As many times as I listened to the podcast and heard everybody say it, then I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what about you, David?
So mine was dryer sheets, because my mom's washer and dryer were going 24/7.
How many kids were in your family?
There's only 4 of us.
Oh.
And then my dad. So it wouldn't seem like a lot of laundry, but she washed towels every single day. You didn't like carry a towel over into the next day.
Really?
Yeah. I've met people like that.
That's a lot of work.
And I thought that was just normal.
Oh,
until I started living with people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the
You're
towel's
just
been hanging here for
disgusted.
like 3 days. What's going on?
Some people don't even wash their towels. They just air dry them.
Well, here's the thing. Like, when you get out of the shower, you're all clean.
Yeah.
So technically your towel's not getting dirty,
Well, that's
right?
what I say. I say you can go maybe like
Is this something we should be talking about?
maybe like 5 days, maybe.
There you
This
go.
is interesting. I mean, how many days? Okay, here's a question for our listeners. How many days do you go without washing your towel?
That's actually, I think
I
you can
really
learn
would
a
like
lot
that. You should
about
post that
people.
on Facebook.
Actually, you should. And because I learned when we moved in together that he doesn't like sharing towels.
I
No,
agree.
you don't. But
with
like, you're like,
Chris.
this is my towel. That's your towel. Like,
Wait a minute. Wait a
you
minute.
don't. It's not that you don't like it, but
You wanted to share towels with me?
well, I'm like, it's a towel.
No,
You were clean when you used it. Okay.
Christina. No.
We're getting off track. Anyway.
No, I'm with Chris on that one. No sharing towels. No.
Yeah, that's just weird.
It is weird.
We're Agreed.
I mean, I would
Okay,
say you
all
got your
right.
own filth on your own towel, but you just got out of the bathtub, so there is no filth.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I don't like that.
Maybe. Okay. All right. Okay. That's fine. I'm the gross one.
Anyway, let's get back to David here. That's
Okay,
why
sorry,
we're
David.
that's why we're
That's
here
okay.
chatting. Just
So your
messing-
childhood smelled of cleanliness.
It smelled like that, and it also smelled like baking because my mom baked all the time.
Oh my gosh. You
All
grew
the
up in
time.
like a wonderful house.
Where'd you grow up here in
did.
Utah or where?
I grew up. I was born in LDS Hospital, and then I grew up in West Valley City, and my mom still lives in that same house.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you ever just like go back and just sit there and remember your childhood?
Oh, I'm there almost every single day.
Does she still bake every day? I'd be there.
She pretty much does. Like a couple years ago, her oven broke, and that was like a tragedy. And then she ended up getting a double oven. And those double
Even
ovens,
better.
we go over there for Sunday dinner, the whole family, every Sunday. She usually whips up a really nice dinner and has baked cookies, or she's famous for her chocolate cake, Beverly's chocolate cake. If anybody knows Beverly Pierce, they know that her chocolate cake's where it's at.
So she would bring this chocolate cake, I bet, to events and get-togethers.
Everybody always requests it. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I guess they had like a award auction, and somebody paid $60 for it.
No kidding.
Nice.
So is it worth $60?
Oh yeah.
Wow. I'd like to put it next to the Costco chocolate cake. Have a cake off.
I know what you're saying about
You-
Costco because
yeah.
it's really good,
It's pretty good.
but my mom's, and
Even
I'm not
better.
just saying it's because it's my mom's. It's really good.
Does she take orders?
She could.
Interesting.
So let's. I want to jump right into Bewitched.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's what we're here. I'm actually going to hold the book here just to feel the. I felt like bringing this book would bring like an energy here to the room today. You know, you gave us
Like a
a
spiritual
signed
essence.
copy.
It will.
Dude, this book is so thick.
I know.
Like, how long did this take to write?
So Bewitched ran for 8 years, and it took me 8 years to write.
Whoa. Did you actually go through, because you really break down each episode that was ever made.
Yeah.
Did you sit and write while you were watching each episode? I was reading through it and I'm like, I wonder how he,
Yeah, I would.
thought to make all these little commentaries.
So how it started was I was on a Bewitched fan board called harpiesbazaar.com, and it's called Harpies Bazaar because that's the magazine that the witches read instead of Harper's Bazaar. Harpies Bazaar.
Okay.
I was on the message board, and Sony that owns Bewitched wasn't doing anything to celebrate like the 40th, and they did that for the Brady Bunch, but not Bewitched, which I find, I mean,
Interesting.
yeah, the Brady Bunch is more, I guess, iconic, but Bewitched was on all the time when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I decided to celebrate the 40th myself by writing posts about each episode as on their 40th anniversary and write it like it was occurring in this time, except that I would write about what was happening at that time. So Bewitched went into production on November 22nd, 1963. Do you guys know what date that is?
We probably should.
Oh,
Wait,
don't.
say that again. Say
I know.
that. Say
11/22/63.
11/22/63.
That was way before my time.
I didn't realize we were going to do math.
This is history. This is the day JFK got shot, you guys.
Well, I'm not really a JFK fan.
What? Oh, God.
Well, I should be.
I don't know.
Everybody is a JFK fan.
Do you know JFK was one of the first presidents who wanted to legalize marijuana?
So
See, even more of a reason to be a fan. See?
Yeah, no,
Do you think
seriously,
that's why they
he
killed
was
him?
he used it. He used it for back pain to medicate himself. And before he got shot, he was gonna actually.
Yeah.
I don't know every detail, but I know
okay,
he
that
was.
really adds to a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I really like that. That adds a
whole.
whole new dimension.
Yeah.
Anyway, they went into production the day he got shot, and Elizabeth Montgomery, who plays Samantha on the show, and her husband, William Asher, who was the director of the show, were friends with JFK, and they decided to go on with producing the show anyway. And I found that so interesting. And then all sorts of other things in history happened, like the Vietnam War and Martin Luther King getting shot and Woodstock. The Beatles came to America the same year Bewitched premiered. So I found it really interesting. I love history.
Yeah.
And so every time I wrote about an episode, like on the next week, something new happened in history that was like, wow. And especially like the show's all, I guess some people label it as cotton candy, like it's fluffy and light and sugary sweet.
Yeah, but
and
that's
the world,
fun.
yeah, that's fun. That's why we like it. And the world if you watch old TV shows, you think that the world was just like that, but really the world was kind of crappy like ours is right now.
Yeah, that's true.
So
would you say you're the biggest Bewitched fan?
I wouldn't go that far.
Have you seen like bigger ones, like
Yes.
like more really? Well, like just on the internet or
Yeah, I know. I met
Or is there
them.
like a convention where you all
There's
meet?
there's a
kidding.
convention. So
There's a Bewitched convention.
yeah, it's called Bewitched Fan Fair, and it's put on by the biggest Bewitched fan. His name is Mark Simpson, and he lives up in Spokane, Washington.
Does he actually puts the whole thing together?
Yeah, so yeah, he puts that together. I've got a massive collection of Bewitched memorabilia, but Mark Simpson far outweighs. He's got I believe he has every episode on the original 16 millimeter film. He's got all the scripts, and he's got.
He lives at the house.
Oh, he's the first one to paint his room to look like the opening cartoon, like his memorabilia room, and I did that too.
Oh my gosh.
I copied it
That's
when I moved
amazing.
into my new house.
Hey, I would too. Why not
I'll
own
have to
it?
see that.
It's
Yeah.
freaking awesome.
Do you have any pictures of that online?
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to check that out. On your Facebook?
Uh-huh.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Time to stalk.
But we do, so in 2000, there were 6 of us that decided to, and Mark wasn't part of the group at that time. We decided to meet in Reno, Nevada, where my friend Andrea lives, and just get together as Bewitched fans. And there was only 6 of us. We met and this is back when you meet people on the internet, you're probably going to get murdered.
Right.
So my sister was a really big Bewitched fan. She's 8 years younger than me, and I was 24 and she was 16. And I remember telling her, because we were going to go stay with Joan in her hotel room in Reno, and I'd never met Joan face to face. And I can't believe my parents would let me take my sister,
Yeah.
let alone let me go. I mean, I was 24 and an adult, but still. So I told Heather, let's drive to Reno and go to meet these people at the hotel. And if there's any serial murder vibe going on, we just tell them that I have to work tomorrow and I have to drive back the whole 7-8 hours or whatever it was.
It's good to have an escape plan going in.
Yeah. So nobody's wearing Bewitched shirts. And I knew and I hadn't seen pictures. I knew who everybody was the moment I saw them. And they knew me too. Like,
Had you
we
seen pictures of each other?
No, I hadn't seen them.
How did you know?
Just sensed each
Just
other.
sensed.
Just that Bewitched vibe.
There is when you're a Bewitched fan, a lot of weird, spooky things happen all the time like that. Like you'll be in the store and It's Witchcraft by Sinatra will be playing on the over the head music, or your waitress will be named Samantha. Like that happens all the time when groups of fans get together.
No kidding.
I know it sounds crazy, but it's
So
true.
you met him in Reno.
We met in Reno and we watched. So at that time, the first 2 seasons of Bewitched were in black and white, and a Canadian network had colorized the first 2 seasons. So we watched the first episode in color for the first time, and it was amazing. And my friend Rita, that lives in Vancouver, Canada, who had come down for it, she brought a scrapbook that she'd kept as a little girl of all the magazine clippings about Bewitched and Elizabeth Montgomery. And it was like, seriously, thicker than my book, which, that's pretty thick, filled with magazine stuff. And if she didn't have the money to buy the magazines, which at that time were 15 cents, she would sit in the store and handwrite and pencil the articles.
Whoa.
So I mean, that was
amazing.
What is it about Bewitched that you love, or is that a hard to answer question? I mean, there's what pulls you in?
There's like a multiple answer to that. Like the magic was amazing, even though it's like so rudimentary. Like literally they stopped the camera so that people could appear and disappear, and there's strings on floating things. But the way that the actors totally believe that, and also like how gorgeous Elizabeth Montgomery was. I had never seen anybody so beautiful in my whole life. I remember when I was way little, just wanting to see her. Mm-hmm. It's just a combination of like good writing on the show and the special effects.
Oh, it's a great show. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but I was just wondering. I mean, there's a lot of good shows from that time period, though.
But I think that Bewitched, it also kind of stood as an allegory. At that time, like the racial tensions were really high.
True.
And Bewitched kind of stood for that, where Samantha was from a different race and she married a normal mortal human being, and they had to deal with how that affected their marriage, being in a mixed marriage. And a lot of that kind of stuff was coming out in the world, where people were the Civil Rights Act was signed the same year that Bewitched came out. And like the first Halloween episode was totally about prejudice because Darren's ad campaign was for a candy maker that was using like the typical long-nosed, warty, blacked out teeth witch. And Samantha found that offensive because that was totally going against her entire race.
Yeah.
And so they did that early on. So it was kind of fun to see shows like that where they tackled the race issue, but not like in a direct way.
Yeah, like in a really subtle way to make people think about actually how ridiculous it is to be racist.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I've never really looked at it from that angle, but
Yeah,
I
I
could
had
definitely see how it would be that way.
Yeah.
Can you honestly say you've seen every episode?
Oh my gosh, multiple.
He wrote about
Well, I mean,
every
I guess
episode.
you
Well,
did
yeah.
write it, but I mean, anybody. I mean,
It took forever to see every episode. Like,
because there's
Yeah, that
probably
would take
some that are really hard to find.
there were some that never aired, it seemed, but finally I got to see them.
How?
Just like,
These meetups in Reno.
or like on
black
eBay,
market.
some people would like sell the original episodes, and I got to see them that way. But eventually, like, it was just a matter of catching them on TV, and at the time recording it, having the VCR set to record.
Yeah, yes.
The timer and,
Those are the good days.
somebody would record over
And
your
then
VHS.
somebody in your household changes the channel right in the
Oh my
midst of
gosh.
it.
Oh my gosh.
You're like, no.
I think we all probably have a horror story about someone recording over our favorite TV
Over
show.
our stories. I hate that.
Oh man.
Have you had a chance to meet the cast at all? Any of the cast? Or?
Yes, so Elizabeth Montgomery passed away in 95 from colon cancer, so I didn't get to meet her, nor did I get to meet the two Darrens. However, I've met Tabitha Erin Murphy, and her twin sister Diane sometimes played Tabitha, so I met her. And then Adam, Tabitha's little brother that people normally don't think about because he came later on in the series. Mm-hmm. He's a really cool guy, and played by twins, but I haven't met his brother Greg. And then my favorite was Dr. Bombay, her witch doctor, played by Bernard Fox. Bernard Fox was in movies like The Mummy and Titanic. And I met him before he passed away in December of 2016. And I've become really good friends with his daughter, Amanda, and her wife and his grandkids. It's just
That's
the
so
greatest. And let's see who else. There's just a lot of like secondary characters.
I was going to say, you could rattle off names and I wouldn't even know.
Dr. Bombay was the best. Like, he was my favorite besides Samantha because he just epitomized everything that anybody'd want to be. He was a warlock, a doctor, and he was funny as hell.
Have any of them come to like the Salt Lake Comic-Con at all? Because I don't think so.
Well, no. So Adam West, one of his first guest starring roles on TV ever was on Bewitched, and that's where I met him at Comic-Con.
Yeah, he's
passed
Comic-Con.
away.
Yeah.
He was way cool. Like, I'd always heard horror stories that he was going to be really jerky.
Really?
Like in person?
That
Yeah,
surprises me.
really.
I've never actually, but he always makes fun of himself. Like he's always done such a
Yeah.
good. Well, he did. You know,
No,
he's gone now.
R.I.P. Adam
but
West.
yeah, R.I.P. And I always thought maybe he was a really cool guy.
He was way cool. I brought my nephew, who I think at the time was 9 or 10. He was so cool and sweet with my nephew. Made the $60 for his autograph worth it.
That's so cool.
We need to actually take a break here to play a message from our sponsors. But then when we come back, there was a few questions I wanted to ask about the book that I forgot. So
Okay.
we'll chat about that when we get back. Hang tight. All right. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Market Source Real Estate. I know we have a lot of listeners that are moving to Salt Lake City. We have a lot of listeners that are moving across town or maybe just moving into a bigger house. Check out Market Source Real Estate. If you love the charm and character of old homes, you really need to contact our friends Monique and Jeremy Higginson of Market Source Real Estate.
Yeah, for the last 17 years, they've been specializing in helping people buy and sell homes in the Sugar House and Greater Salt Lake area.
They have a background of flipping houses and owning almost 24 homes themselves, so they know all the ins and outs of older homes.
And if you're looking to sell your home, Market Source Real Estate specializes in helping sellers update or repair their homes to increase their value and make sellers more money.
If you're looking to buy an old home, they know what to look for in older homes so you don't end up buying a money pit. You can find all their info online, thinksaltlakecity.com. It's all one word. Just type that into your browser, thinksaltlakecity.com, or you can just give them a call, 801-810-6773. Again, that's Monique and Jeremy Higginson, and many thanks to Market Source Real Estate for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. All right, this episode of the podcast is also sponsored by Five Wives Vodka. You know, we love Five Wives Vodka here. Not only are they a sponsor of this podcast, but we've been drinking them for years.
Yeah.
The next time you head on over to the state liquor store, pick up a bottle of Five Wives Vodka. Pick up an extra bottle with the holidays coming up. It's a great gift to give a friend that you don't know what to get them. You're like, oh, here's a bottle of Five Wives Vodka. I was thinking about you.
Bring it, make some holiday eggnog, have a party.
They actually have 3 different flavors. Chrissy and I are going to tell you about them right now. They have the original. This is probably the one that they sell the most of. This is the one that
The classic.
I think, the classic,
Yes.
like Chrissy said. This one is made from Utah mountain spring water. It's 100% distilled corn spirit, and it's gluten-free. Spring's hidden in beautiful Ogden Canyon, so they're not taking vehicles up there. They're hiking this stuff out 5 gallons at a time.
Five Wives Sinful is a flavored vodka with a delicious cinnamon taste. It's not like other cinnamon products that give you a cinnamon candy taste. Sinful is like a morning cinnamon roll, and it only has 76 calories per ounce.
They also have the Five Wives Heavenly. This is another one of their flavored vodkas with the delicious vanilla taste. Heavenly's rich, buttery vanilla flavor. It comes through without coating your taste buds with sugar, and this results in more vanilla and less calories. All 3 bottles are great. They would all make great gifts for the holidays.
And they usually have some really great sales at the local state liquor stores.
So check them out. Next time you head over to the state liquor store, like Christina said, ask for Five Wives Vodka. Next time you head on over to one of your local bars, ask for Five Wives Vodka. You can also check them out online at fivewivesvodka.com. And many thanks to Five Wives Vodka for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. When did you start writing this book? Like, what year was it?
It was 2004.
2004, and it took you...
It took 8 years. So what happened was I was posting the blog entries or whatever. It wasn't really a blog. It was a message board beginning September 17th of 2004, because that was the 40th anniversary. And then a couple years into it, everybody's like, you going to publish a book? And I was like, I don't know how to do that, but sure. And then my favorite person in the whole world, other than members of my family, is Paula Abdul.
Oh my gosh, we have so much in common. Just to let you know.
Chrissy, you going to go down to the concert in Vegas in 12 days?
We should. We actually saw Paula Abdul when she came here. But anyway.
Last year?
Continue.
With
New Kids on the Block.
Yes, that was so awesome,
great.
and I met her anyway.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Okay,
So,
continue.
anyway, Paula Abdul told her fans in about 2010, she's like, I want you, because she's very goal-oriented. And she said, pick a goal that you don't think that you're going to be able to do, and I want you to work at it until you literally, like, you can say with 100% honesty, I tried everything I could do to reach that goal, and it is unattainable. And I was like, okay. And I don't really set goals. I know I should, but I just don't. But I was like, I'm going to try out publishing my book. And so the publisher, Bear Manor Media, which the book's available on bearmanormedia.com, which is BearMediamanor.com. They publish old time radio and TV stuff. And I had like several of their books, particularly Agnes Moorehead's biography. I love the illusion she played in Dora. So I thought, well, I'll submit it to them and see what they say. And I set myself a goal of 100 refusals because I had submitted an idea for a spell book a long time ago based on Bewitched to another publisher. And they said no, and that really hurt my feelings. Mm-hmm. So I didn't go on. But J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, she was rejected like hundreds of times before she finally got to where she was. So I submitted it to Bear Manor, and Ben Omart, that owns Bear Manor, said, this sounds good, let's do it. And that was the first one.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wait a minute. I wanted to get like at least 70 rejections, so I had a good story. So the book, even though it's over 700 pages now, was over 1,300 pages.
Holy
first,
cow.
the
When
first-
you
the
first
first
submitted it
printing?
to them?
So I had to edit.
Did they tell you to edit it down?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I edited. It was hard to do. That's like my baby.
Yeah,
and I had
for
to
sure.
take limbs off and
You
just
feel
get
like
it
you're
down to the
destroying the whole
essence.
thing, right?
Yes.
Just taking parts out.
And so finally, so that was in 2010 when Paula put out that challenge. And then the book got published on April 30th, 2012.
what was the date? 2012, April 30th.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so then that was the same year this podcast launched.
Oh,
See the
really?
connection there?
See, there is always connections.
No, that is so fascinating. What was it like the first time you held this book in your hands?
It was amazing because a box came with like 15 books in it. So it was super heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And then opening it up. And that's the second edition. So the cover on the first edition, this is funny too. In one of the episodes, Dr. Bombay has a machine called the Omnidirectional 3-Dimensional Vectoring Cadmium Shielded Computer for Location Analysis. Which I think is hilarious because Darren says what, and Dr. Bombay repeats the whole thing. Hilarious. So I was like, man, I want to call my book. Let me see if I can remember it. Omnidirectional 3-Dimensional Vectoring Paper Printed Omnibus for Bewitched Analysis, aka the Bewitched History Book. And I submitted that as a joke because they asked me what title I wanted.
Yeah.
So if you open up the cover to the very first page. That was what my cover was, but it was blue. And if you turn the page again, that part with the cartoon Samantha on it, that was also on the front cover.
All right.
All of that smashed into one cover.
I love it.
Awesome.
So they took you seriously.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think they would, and they totally did.
You're like, what? Why is everyone doing what I want?
I know.
It's so weird.
What's been the response like with fans? I mean, they seem to dig it,
Oh,
right?
they love it. Like, for a while, it was only 5-star reviews on Amazon. I was the best-selling book on BearManorMedia.com for a whole year.
You were living large and
It was
driving
great. Like
Lamborghinis
I had my first book signing was up at the King's English up in Sugar House in a hot July day, where I was part of a local author showcase where there was 4 authors and we had totally different subjects. Like one of them was like a recovering meth addict. One of them wrote some science fiction something, and I can't remember what the other one was. But the audience that was there for that was 3/4 my people. And King's English had said for each of us to bring 10 books to sign. And they said, and then we'll just sell the rest on the shelves if you don't sell all of them. I sold all my 10 books that night, and the rest of them sold like one.
Oh,
I felt bad for them, but
good
I
for
was
you.
the superstar.
Yeah.
Until somebody came on Amazon and delivered a 1-star rating. I'm sure you guys know how that feels.
Oh,
Maybe.
I actually got excited to get our first 1-star rating, but I'm also very
we got
weird.
called a liberal podcast. Too
Very
liberal.
liberal.
Very liberal.
Jeez.
They do not speak for Salt Lake.
But they say that you're not officially, and I'm sure it's the same way as a writer, that you haven't made it until you get your first 1-star review, right?
Yeah, they do say that, and I didn't think it would hurt as much as it did.
It does, though.
It
It
still does
really
hurt.
hurts.
What did
Yeah.
you? Talk about what.
Well, that person wrote a review almost as long as my book
I haven't seen it.
and said, what did they say? I kind of feel like I know who it was, but I'm not going to name names. Nobody like in the Salt Lake area or nothing like this.
I'll kick
but,
but
they said that I wrote like a frustrated teenage girl. What else did they say?
that's hard to hear, though, man.
Oh, they
Even
said that my and this really pissed me off because I got all A's in English. They said my grammar sucked.
Oh, wow.
No, it didn't. I admit.
But don't you get an editor for all that anyway, or no?
So Bear Manor is kind of a self-publisher. I had to edit it all myself.
Okay.
Okay.
And now rereading it, like even in the, I think it was in the introduction, I saw something where I was like, oh crap, are you kidding me?
Oh, like there was an error
After
somewhere.
all the time, it was just a misplaced word. Mm-hmm. And some of it was just when they typeset it, like that wasn't my fault.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough, and there's so much to go over.
Yeah.
Like to really make. I've printed like trade show backdrops, which are not this long.
Yeah.
With just like 5 words and spelled them wrong. Yeah. So the pressure of editing something that big is
I've heard of
insane.
tattoos getting spelled wrong. That would be the
gosh.
worst. You know what I mean?
would be-
Well, you know what, though, even back to the 1-star review, the fact that person took the time to write it must have meant you made some sort of impact on them.
Oh, I did because they obviously read it because they used several examples.
So
Yeah.
that's
So
what
I was
mean.
like,
they read
well,
it.
at least they took their time.
No, I mean, and you can't take anything to heart. It's still hard, and I'm sure it still eats away at you.
Yeah, like I can't. After that, I hardly ever go on Amazon to look at the reviews because I can't take it if I get another one.
A lot of people say that too. Like, never go read your own reviews.
All right, let's read a few of them.
Because it's true, because no matter what you do, you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to do something like you did and really put yourself out there, because inevitably someone's going to be upset about something.
Yep.
And
And then there were some that would give somebody gave a 4-star review.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, why would you do 4 stars? What you wrote indicates that you really enjoyed it.
We got some like that for I Am Salt Lake too. This is the best podcast in the world. 4 stars.
So why? Yeah, I was so mad.
It's like, no, guys, give us 1 or 5.
Yeah.
Those are your options, okay?
So do you want to write any other Bewitched books? Do you have anything in the works?
I do have something in the works.
But you don't want to talk about it?
No, I'll talk about it. It's just that I haven't So my dad passed away in January 2015. And I'm sure you know how this is because your father passed away, right?
He did, yeah.
So it's sent me into a huge depression, which I knew that it was coming. It was a long time coming. He died from complications from diabetes and kidney failure and all that. But at the time I was working on an I Dream of Jeannie book, the show that Bewitched always gets compared with.
Yeah.
And I have a co-author named Judy Moore that lives in California. So Judy had interviewed all the stars that were, I'm not sure about Larry Hagman, but I know she interviewed Barbara Eden, who plays Jeannie, and Barbara's the only main cast member left now. And what's his face? Bill Daly, that just died, that played Roger Healy, the friend on the show. He came to Comic-Con, and I met him, and I told him I was writing the Jeannie book, and he gave me his phone number. He lived down in Phoenix, and I was supposed to call him, and then my dad died.
Oh.
And I didn't care about anything. I didn't want to do anything. And I'm just barely almost 4 years later coming up out of the depths.
Wow.
I can feel I'm surfacing. So that Jeannie book is I'd say halfway complete. I have all my episode reviews written, but Judy wanted to really delve into it. And it's going to be really cool because, of course, I Dream of Jeannie took place in Cocoa Beach, Florida, with Major Anthony Nelson working at NASA. So there's a lot of stuff that I didn't realize that Jeannie referred to with the NASA program. And so we're going to delve into the NASA program as how it was going on and then how it affected I Dream of Jeannie.
That's really cool.
Because Major Nelson was actually in training to be the first man on the moon, which I didn't realize in watching the show until Judy pointed it out.
Wow.
So I was too busy watching Jeannie.
A lot of that stuff flew over my head, man.
It seems like TV shows back then actually had a point to them. A lot of TV shows today are just
there's always a
whatever,
moral, right?
Yeah. Jeannie's not. I mean, I love I Dream of Jeannie. Do not get me wrong, but Bewitched I felt was so much better written, had better storylines, and
I do like that they made Elizabeth Montgomery's character a strong female lead. I like I Dream of Jeannie too, but it always kind of still rubbed me the wrong way that she was a ditzy blonde.
Yeah, she kind of was ditzy, but she was also kind of smart. I think she knew how to play Major Nelson. She wanted.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So, but I agree. I felt Samantha was a stronger female lead. Now all my Jeannie friends are going to be like, "Are you serious right now?"
Hey, I'll fight him. Come at me, bro.
What would you tell somebody who wants to write a book? It doesn't matter what it's about, just in general. Besides to just do it, is there any other piece of advice?
You need to understand that the process takes a long time. I didn't understand how long it was going to take. And I mean, 2 years is probably from when I submitted my manuscript to getting published. I guess that's a long time, but it's my first book, so I don't have anything to go by. But you have to edit and you have to be good with the edits. And I'm sure with an editor, that would have been
a lot easier.
Because I like being in charge.
That would be hard to pass off your work to someone else to tell you that it sucks.
Can you make decent money with royalties? I mean, we don't need to get into exacts or anything, but can you make any money?
At first, it was really decent money. It was groceries and gas and going out for a good time, probably filling up your car 3 times.
Sure. Sure.
And the royalty checks, I would get them, and I still get them quarterly.
Sure.
But now, since it's been so long, it's maybe McDonald's, maybe.
Well, after our listeners go buy it, it'll be back to gas money.
Oh, and that's another thing. I don't know if it's still there, but there is one copy up at Marissa's Books that's up on 9th East and 5400 South, I believe. She's got one for sale. or at least she did. I don't know if she sold it yet.
Oh, one of these Bewitched books. So there's not very many bookstores in Salt Lake, or that's the only one in the area that has it.
It's not sold in bookstores because it's a self-publisher. And so like if it had been a major publisher, self-publishers, because I asked Barnes & Noble about it, and they're like, the thing with self-publishers is that we'll set them out and we have a lot of time to put the books out on the shelf. And if they don't sell in that a lot of time, we send them back to the publisher. Self-publishers will not allow that because it's print as you go. So they're not sold on the shelves, but it is on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And also there's this website called Oldies.com that always has it for, usually Oldies.com is the lowest price for it.
Where's the best place to go for you? Like that would help you out, or does it matter?
The best place for me would be my publisher's website, which I said earlier, which was BearManorMedia.com. Because if they go to the other sites, then
everyone gets
that site takes it. Yeah. Everybody gets a little bit of it.
Interesting. I've always wondered how that was. Cause I mean, a book takes so much thought and so much time and everything. And it was like, do these guys make any money? I mean, is it?
I would think, I don't know. I'd like to try out like I don't want to say real publisher, but like brick and mortar publisher.
Like Penguin House books.
See?
Is that what they're called?
Yeah,
Penguin
something
House?
like that.
Yeah, one of those things.
I'd like to try that out and see how that goes, but I wouldn't I didn't know about getting an agent or anything like that. So that part I would need to research more.
What you need to do is start a Bewitched podcast and then like get a fan base that way as you sell your book and go on like a little tour.
Yeah.
That's a solid idea.
Are there, I mean, there's got to be some Bewitched
There's
podcasts.
only one that I know of. It's called Nose Twitch, and it's this kid. I think he's in Georgia. He hasn't put out an episode for a minute, and he was only 23, and I liked it because he's like from a younger generation that really normally does not even know what Bewitched is.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to hear his ideas on it, especially since Bewitched was in the 60s where the man was the head of the house and the woman acquiesced to whatever he wanted. Mm-hmm. Except that
those were the beautiful days.
Yeah. You wish.
And so it was interesting to listen to his views on, because some of the stuff you'd be like, oh, snap. And I'm trying to think of like something where because I've been on his podcast like 3 times, but he got into other stuff and hasn't put out an episode. But it's really good. The episodes he has up, I think he has like 33 or 34 episodes.
So he kind of takes like a modern day generation look at that. That seems really interesting because it is a complete different culture. Even. Like it's.
And he would have some of his friends come on. And one time his mom came on. His mom's a total, I don't want to say pothead, but she is. She even has like a little video that she does on Twitter.
Oh, wow.
Where she lights it up and goes to town. And her episode, she's such a sweet lady. It was her episode was like sweet and funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think I should start up my own Bewitched podcast, but then I think it sounds like too much work.
And
it is a lot of work.
They are a lot of work. But I mean, somebody like yourself who is just full of knowledge of it, it would seem easy. Now, you were talking about modern, and I just completely remembered. I was going to ask you what your thoughts were on the newer movie that they brought. I mean, it's not new, but it was
the one with Nicole Kidman.
And was it Will Ferrell?
It was Will Ferrell.
Yeah,
I was so excited for that because again, I liked Bewitched as a kid. I grew up on that. Because that was the stuff my mom would let me watch because there wasn't swear words and stuff like that. They slept in separate beds even.
No, Samantha and Darren were one of the first couples to sleep in the same bed.
In the same bed, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Right behind Fred and Wilma Flintstone.
So what did you think of that movie?
I didn't.
It was horrible.
Crap.
Huh? Yeah, okay, let's just get it right out on the table.
But the sad thing is that everybody's always like on the message boards or whatever ever since the internet began has always been, oh, Jim Carrey's got to play Darren.
I could
because
see
he
that.
resembles Dick York the first time.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Speaking of Dick York, that's who I've met. Is all his children and not all his children, but most of his children, especially Chris York, the oldest son, who's freaking awesome, and his brother Matt, and all their kids love the Yorks.
Oh,
and you can totally feel their dad's
and York
spirit.
peppermint patties are good too.
There we go. But anyway, Jim Carrey read for the role that was in the Bewitched movie, and he hated that it was not a direct remake, which good on him.
Oh yeah, good for him.
Yeah, I always wanted Nicole, but I did not like her performance. And I did try to, I worked at J.C. Penney's in the accounting center up on 3rd South and Main at that time. and there was a lot of downtime. So I would peruse the internet trying to find the casting director's phone number, and I found it.
Oh my gosh.
So I called her one day because I wanted to make sure that she's all, how'd you get this number? And I said, I'm not going to tell you, but now they're on the phone, let's talk. And I wanted her to get Bernard Fox, that played Dr. Bombay, to return in the role of Dr. Bombay.
Was this during the casting? Like,
yeah, it was during the
movie
casting,
out?
yeah, before the movie came out. And
Oh,
she told me,
wow.
she's like, well, to tell you the truth, we've already had him come read because that role's in the script. And I ended up getting an original script. But that scene was cut out, and he was cut out of the movie, which is totally
Oh,
sad
that's
because
so
it was a
sad.
cute scene.
Why
even
did
though
he
it was
get
a
cut
crappy
out?
movie.
Have you seen the scene?
No, I read the scene in the script.
In the script.
Oh,
It was
okay,
really
okay.
cute. And I wanted Erin Murphy, that played Tabitha. I thought she should just have a cameo as just like a waitress or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that didn't happen either. So, but anyway,
Interesting.
the movie came out, and we had a Bewitched fanfare.
I thought you were going to say you tried out for the
Oh,
movie.
heavens no.
You should have been the casting director.
Yeah, we all went to see it in Los Angeles, paid the $18 that those crazies pay for new movies.
Yeah.
And then we're regretting it sorely afterwards.
Were you guys all just massively depressed coming out of the theater?
I was like really jazzed about it because they show some scenes from the original series like on the big screen, which was like totally amazing. And like the logo when it first came on, I was like totally had chills.
Yeah.
And I tried to talk myself into liking it, but I
Right.
really didn't.
Yeah, I feel you. It was like, for me, that was like the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh man.
And then, so actually, do you guys watch Blackish on ABC?
We know.
I've heard it's hilarious.
So I don't think it's hilarious
Oh.
because I tried to watch it. But the reason I bring it up is that the creators of that show have been optioned to come up with a new Bewitched, where Samantha will be a black woman in the modern day that marries a white lazy guy, and how she tries to manage that marriage because she has all the power and he doesn't do anything. It sounds horrible.
Yeah, I was going to say that
Yeah.
sounds pretty.
But if it pushes more Bewitched merchandise from the original show, I'm all about it.
There you go. I mean, there's a market for everybody, right?
Yes.
Maybe?
And speaking of new merchandise, there's these toys called Mego that were produced in the 70s that were like action figures. So they've made a comeback. And so now there's Bewitched action figures that are at Target.
Oh, that's cool.
So go get your hands on some right now, right?
Yeah, I already bought 4 Samanthas, and
Are they 4 different Samanthas?
no, they're all the same.
Oh, okay.
But I bought one to send to, this is funny. I bought one to send to my friend Peter in Salem, Massachusetts. So I thought it was funny that I was sending a witch to Salem
That's awesome.
because he couldn't find them there. And then this week they're coming out with an Endora and Samantha's cousin Serena action figure at Target.
Where do you keep up with all this? Like, is there like a website
Just
or
on Facebook.
Facebook fan
Yeah.
pages, stuff like that? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, connected. There must be a lot of other Bewitched fans out there.
Yeah, my books page has over 25,000 fans on it.
Yeah.
Which that's crazy time.
Yeah. That's
And I
awesome.
wish all 25,000 would have bought my book because I know they haven't.
Oh.
So, besides Bewitched, let's talk other hobbies and interests. What else? I mean, does anything else occupy your time, or is it just all Bewitched?
It's all mainly Bewitched, but I like to draw. I haven't drawn for a while, but when I grew up, I wanted to go work at Disney, and then I let that fall by the wayside. And I love the Muppets, and I totally,
Who doesn't love the Muppets,
Oh
though,
my
right?
gosh.
Fraggle Rock and Muppet
Yes.
Babies.
There's so
I wanted, so one time in elementary, they had career day, and I believe it was 4th grade. And the girl that babysat us, Vanessa, she had an animal Muppet. And so I decided I was going to dress up as a Muppet performer, which was just dressing as a hippie and have a Muppet on your hand. And I was literally told by the teacher, you can't have that.
Oh, no, the Muppet?
That you can't want to be a Muppet performer.
Oh, you can't have that dream?
Yeah.
Well,
They probably make good money.
Oh, I'm sure they do. And
you
then,
should have been like, it pays better than a teacher's salary. Ooh, don't ever say that. I'm sorry. I love
have to-
teachers.
yeah, I
and
was
I
gonna
think
say, we lost
let's edit
half of
that out. But no, for real. I really think teachers need to be paid more. That was my point.
Yeah, I think so too. But that really, it didn't squash my dream. I still wanted to do that until Jim Henson passed away. And then I was like, well, I only wanted to work with Jim Henson, really.
Well, who
Yeah.
doesn't, right? Yeah.
I know, exactly.
But what else do I do? I love reading. I love reading.
You're really into like history and mystery.
Yeah, I love right now I'm reading, I think it's called The Art of Murder in the Victorian Age or something. It's really interesting.
That sounds fascinating.
That sounds right up your alley.
That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah.
On our honeymoon, I bought a book called The Big Book of Murder. It's just
I'm looking at it as I'm driving home from California. I'm like,
who the hell
I
did I
need to get this
marry?
annulled. But I love biographies.
Yeah.
Love biographies.
Now, what kind of reader? Do you like a physical book? Do you read on like maybe a Kindle?
I tried
or-
doing Kindle, and I like the touch of the physical book.
Okay, I
Yeah,
can
me
respect
too.
that.
Yeah.
There's
So I have, like,
something nice.
Piles, like, my family thinks I'm a hoarder. I am what's known as a collector. I always say that I'm like one dead cat away from being a hoarder, because on hoarders,
There's
always
always
dead cats, and that's
always
sad.
dead cats.
And so I went through all my mess looking for my Halloween costume, which I couldn't find part of it. But most of my boxes, like 80% of my boxes, are books.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Not enough shelves, not enough space.
At least you got
Time
some
to build
good
shelves.
knowledge there, some good
That's true.
education.
Yeah,
I'm wondering, so you don't listen to a whole lot of podcasts though, right?
not really.
Oh man, I feel like you would love so many. There's this new podcast called Unobscured by Aaron Mahnke.
Okay.
He's the guy who does lore.
What's it
Have you
about?
It's
No,
about
I heard you talk about lore, and I need to listen
lore
to
is
it.
you would love it.
Yeah.
Unobscured, it's a deep dive into the Salem witch trials, the history. He gets a bunch of historians on, and they talk in depth about like the beginning of how the witch trial started, and like all of even the political pressure behind it, and it's
all about
really
the witch
fascinating.
trials.
Yeah.
So like in 8th grade, I was in the accelerated learning program called Quest at Kennedy Junior High. And we had to do, for the Utah history, or not the Utah history, for the American history part of it, we had to select something in American history, do this whole big oral report with visuals. And so mine was like the poster board with I don't think we didn't have a computer. So it was hand-drawn lettering and Xerox pictures from books at the library. And then I took my sister's Hawaiian Barbie, and my mom made this black shoulderless dress, which that's not very Puritan Salem time, and hung her from
witches.
a twig. And that was part of and then this other girl came in with this whole little diorama of Salem Township.
Oh
with
my
like
gosh.
Gallows Hill and all these little people, and she got to present first, and I was like,
Oh my
son of a-"
God,
But both of us got A's, so it worked out in the end.
that's good. It's all about presentation.
Yes.
If you presented yourself, the visuals didn't matter. Right?
So you mentioned you're a big Paula Abdul fan.
Yeah.
So usually I'll ask somebody like, most memorable concert or sporting event. I'm assuming you've seen Paula a
So
million
Paula
times.
Abdul
right?
was my actual first concert, and it was what was then, and I still call the Delta Center.
It'll always be the Delta Center to me.
Yeah, it's always the Delta Center. And so I totally remember me and my dad used to go on walks, and before the concert was ever announced, he said, if Paula ever comes in concert, I'll buy your tickets. And then she announced she was coming, and so then me and my cousins went, and my aunt bought the bought the tickets over the phone with a credit card. And I thought because she did that meant that we would have really good seats. We literally had the very last row up in the nosebleeds.
But it was still amazing, right?
Oh, it was amazing. It was so good. And then afterwards, and I'll always remember it. So my grandpa Pierce died November 29th of 91, and the concert was December 3rd. And this is so bad, but I kept on thinking, oh, great. Now we're going to have his funeral on that day, and I'm going to have to miss this concert. But that didn't happen.
How old were you?
I was 16.
That's an accurate 16-year-old.
So we were waiting out in the snow afterwards for my dad to come pick us up, and there was some kid that was standing there waiting for his brother to come back from backstage, and I was so jealous.
Oh yeah.
But then fast forward to 2004, this is going to sound so nuts. So she was going to be at a women's expo in Ohio. So I called the expo coordinator, Nisi, and I asked her, Nisi, would it be weird if I flew out there for this expo just to meet Paula? Because 1, I'm coming from Utah, and 2, I'm a man. She's like, oh no, honey. In fact, I'll just give you the tickets so you can get in.
No
I was like,
way.
thanks. So I
So you
met
gotta
Paula
meet her.
then.
Yeah.
And it was real, I was on the second row, I think, and we had a Q&A. And I was recording it. I was totally shaking. I couldn't even believe it. And then afterwards, we had to stand in line, and Paula's very, very, she loves all her fans and she tries to get to know them and takes too long. And so she was taking too long, and somebody found out I was from Utah and I was going to miss my plane home, which I did. But they took me backstage, and when she finally came backstage, I got to I put my arm around her, and I'm like, will you sign this picture? And she's like, oh, sure. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm putting my arm around Paula, and all her security's there. And all these people are like screaming because they wanted to be there. And I was the last person she could sign for.
That's cool.
Man,
worth missing the plane. You can get another plane.
Yeah, it was cool. She was going to miss her plane too. And I had a little fantasy of like, oh my gosh, maybe I can ride to the airport and her. It didn't happen.
I've decided. Oh,
I was going to say you're going to see her again in Vegas, right?
I saw her last year when she came with the new kids.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. So we become really good friends on Twitter.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, and I was one of the first people she followed, which that was amazing.
That's awesome.
And so when I came backstage, and so her birthday was 10 days after that concert. So I brought birthday hats and like noisemakers.
Yeah.
And the people that were leading us backstage are like, you can't bring anything back there. And I'm like, trust me, she's going to let me bring this. So I got back there and I'm like, hi, Paula. And she's like, hi, sweetie. And it didn't seem like she registered who I was. And then as I got closer, she's like, oh my God, it's David. And she jumped on me and we twirled around and she was kissing my face and had her arms and legs wrapped around me. She's like, oh my God, you guys, he is the best person ever. I swear he's my biggest fan. Oh my God. And so then the handler came over and he's like, he brought party hats and stuff. And she's like, why? And I said, because it's your birthday, doll, in 10 days. And so we took our pictures with the birthday hats and everything, which was good. But then I wanted like regular pictures, but those somehow didn't turn up. So I only had the party pictures.
Oh,
well, at least you got some pictures.
But I am going to meet her in 12 days again and get real good pictures.
Very cool. I'm waiting to see those pictures, David.
It's going to be amazing.
Let's talk Salt Lake City. You've lived here your whole life.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you got some really cool recommendations if somebody was visiting or if somebody was just here for the weekend, anything, or what would you tell them to check out? What is David's recommendations?
And see, that's the thing. I've lived here all my life and I've learned so much more about Salt Lake listening to your guys' podcast.
That's the idea,
That's how I'm learning is making the podcast.
But I really think even if you're not a part of the LDS church, going to Temple Square anytime, but especially Christmas, is amazing. And just being downtown and being out in the cold and seeing all those beautiful lights in the grounds. But also, like if it's the summer, going up in the canyons. Or also, even though it's not Saltaire, just going out to see that building and just being out there, especially at sundown, is so cool, even though it's kind of stinky sometimes.
The brine shrimp, yeah.
But there's so much.
There's a lot to do.
Yeah.
I just didn't know, everybody has something different, whether it's a building or an activity or an event.
Or I think that like walking up and down through the avenues or like the old mansions that go along South Temple.
Yeah.
And especially like if you go on the tours for the governor's mansion, awesome.
What about favorite local eating spots?
Oh, Same Sushi, which is just down the street. It's on 4th, let's see, 298. It's 3rd South off of 4th West.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's right up Chrissy's alley.
That's, I've always wanted to go there. We're just going to have to go there sometime.
Because I don't eat sushi, but that's where I got my first taste of it. And it was good, but they have really good stuff for people that don't like sushi. And Fernando, that's the owner and the chef, he's amazing. Me and my bestie Gina, we have like our own seat there. And we get offended if somebody's sitting there.
That's our seat.
What do you order when you're there if you're not a sushi person?
I usually get the roasted chicken, or now I can't think of it. It's the noodle dish. I can't think of what the actual name for it is. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, yakisoba.
Oh, yakisoba noodles. Yeah. Those are good.
That's really good. And he just changed the recipe. So good.
That sounds yummy.
Are you a winter person? Are you excited with winter coming up?
No.
You're not like a skier, snowboarder, get out and do all that?
No, I love what we're in right now.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Fall is my jam.
I know, it's so... I was telling Chris, I'm like, I wish every day could be like today.
Yeah, you're not sweating.
Yeah,
it was
just
storm.
so
Perfect today.
Yeah.
And then all the leaves, like literally falling from the trees.
I know, it's like snowing leaves.
Oh, it's
when you're
magical.
just driving through them, and they're just
And see, my birthday was
fun.
a couple weeks ago, and so I always think that starts the beginning of the holiday season. So my birthday, and then we have Halloween coming up.
Yeah.
And Halloween is totally my jam.
Oh, Halloween's the best.
It is a really
I'm getting
fun.
a little sad that it's going to be over because I've had I've had everything decorated since like September 15th.
Oh, that's so cool.
Man after my own heart. Let's run down the list how listeners can buy the book, get a hold of you,
So I have
Facebook, the whole 9 yards.
there's the book's Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Bewitched History Book. I'm also on Twitter with the Bewitched Book, which is at Bewitched Book. I have my own personal Twitter, which is at Dr. Bombay 76, but it's DRBOMBAY 76. And the book's available at bearmanormedia.com, amazon.com, oldies.com, and barnesandnoble.com. Like I said, there's maybe one copy of it left up at Marissa's Books.
Okay.
It's in Salt Lake.
And I'll put all those links at iamsaltlake.com with this episode too. So if you're like taking a shower or driving right now and you don't have a pen.
You don't have to find something to write with. It's okay. Calm your horses.
I am so glad to get you finally on the podcast. I know we've chatted back and forth, run into each other at farmers markets and stuff like that. And I know you've been listening to the podcast for a minute. And
I got to be honest, like the whole historical context of everything, I found that really exciting.
It
was
That's
fun to
awesome.
listen to you
Thank
talk
you.
about.
It's always fun to bring a listener on the podcast as well, because you're familiar with the show and all that good stuff. But anything you want to add, David, before Chrissy always throws that last question out?
I don't think so.
I know there's probably a million things we could
There
talk about.
probably is a million things that I forgot to say, but I think I'm good.
Well, can you also give us one piece of life advice that we can leave with our listeners?
The one piece of life advice is this too shall pass.
I love it because we can all put that into our daily life all the time. I need to remember
Good
that.
or
true.
bad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
See?
true.
See? I'm not a glass half full or half empty. I'm more like, is the glass clean or dirty?
I love it,
what that
David.
means.
Great place to end the show. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You bet. And like I always say, let's catch up down the road, right?
Yes, definitely.
Many thanks again to David Pierce for joining us on this episode of the podcast and sharing his story. You can head on over to our website at iamsaltlake.com/355 for all the links mentioned in this episode's conversation.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Many thanks again to our amazing sponsors for this episode, Five Wives Vodka and Market Source Real Estate. Check them out and support them. They're really rad sponsors.
And also, many thanks to your awesome Patreon supporters. We would love it if you would consider becoming a Patreon supporter. You can head on over and visit it out, check it out at patreon.com/IamSaltLake.
You can also send us an email just to say hello. We like to know you're out there. We like to know you are listening. Our email address is hello@iamsaltlake.com. And you can also send us letters in packages. I know letter writing is like an old school thing, or maybe you want to send us a Christmas card or something. You can send that to P.O. Box 4412, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84110. You all have a great week. Get out and enjoy the city. Remember to support local, and we're going to see you on that next episode.
And good night, Grammy.